This week we read Parshat Kitisa. I think everybody is familiar with the story of the golden calf that the Israelites built together with Aaron, the high priest, and they dance around it. Yeshua tells Moshe is up in the mountain, delaying his return after receiving the Torah. And when Moshe is told and God told what's going on, Moshe is furious, goes down the mountain, and one of the most dramatic moments is when he smashes the tablets and breaks them at the foot of the mountain in anger and despair. And Felicia and I spoke about this scene, this very, very important moment in the Torah. We spoke about it on Yom Kippur. And we spoke about what it means to live with a brokenness. What is the meaning of things that are shattered in our lives? We didn't know then the real brokenness that we would all carry as Jews. The brokenness that Palestinians would carry. We didn't know then on Yom Kippur what would happen a couple of weeks later on Shmini Atzeret. And now it's 21 weeks, 147 days of carrying this brokenness along. It says that in the Talmud, Masechet Menachot, Rav Yosef says that the fragments of the tablets were carried in the ark together with the new tablets that were given later on. And they carried them forever, and then they placed them in the temple in the ark, forever carrying the broken pieces. And what brokenness it is. And yesterday there was a terrible tragedy upon tragedy, of more killing and more deaths, more trauma, more anguish, more despair. And this morning, there was an essay in the New York Times that is a piece that I urge everybody to read by one of Israel's greatest writers of all times, David Grossman. And this is a piece that is just stirring. He touches on many things. And it's a cry of despair and also of hope. It's called Israel is Falling into an Abyss. I will read just little sections from this essay. It's not very long, but I'm not going to read this in its entirety. You will hopefully read it after Shabbat. As the morning of October 7th recedes into the distance, its horrors only seem to be growing. I will skip and read some of these sections here. The profound despair felt by most Israelis after the massacre might be the result of the Jewish condition into which we have once again been thrown. It is the condition of a persecuted, unprotected nation. A nation that, despite its enormous accomplishments in so many realms, is still deep down inside a nation of refugees, permeated with the prospect of being uprooted even after almost 76 years of sovereignty. Today it is clearer than ever that we will always have to stand guard over this penetrable, fragile home. What also has been clarified is how deeply rooted the hatred of this nation is. Another thought follows about these two tortured peoples. The trauma of becoming refugees is fundamental and primal for both Israelis and Palestinians. And yet neither side is capable of viewing the other's tragedy with a shred of understanding, not to mention compassion. One more shameful phenomenon has come to the surface as a result of the war. Israel is the one country in the world whose elimination is most openly called for. Protesters, influential voices, and public leaders should ask themselves, what is it about Israel that provokes this loathing? Why is Israel of the planet's 195 countries alone in being conditional, as if its existence depended on the goodwill of the other nations of the world? One can imagine the malicious glee with which these people step on the Jewish nation's most brittle spot, on its sense of being an outsider, on its existential loneliness, that spot from which it has no refuge. It is this spot that frequently dooms it to make such faithful and destructive mistakes, destructive for both its enemies and its health. So much brokenness. Who will we be, Israelis and Palestinians, when this long, cruel war comes to an end? Not only will the memory of the atrocities inflicted on each other stand between us for many years, but also, as is clear to us all, as soon as Hamas gets the chance, it will swiftly implement the goal clearly stated in its original charter, namely the religious duty to destroy Israel. How then can we sign a peace treaty with such an enemy? And yet, what choice do we have? The Palestinians will hold their own reckoning. I, as an Israeli, ask what sort of people will we be when the war ends? Where will we direct our guilt, if we are courageous enough to feel it, for what we have inflicted upon innocent Palestinians, for the thousands of children we have killed, for the families we have destroyed? And how will we learn so that we are never again surprised to live a full life on the knife's edge? These questions will likely accompany Israel for years. There is, however, the possibility that a radically different reality will rise up to contend with them. The broken pieces were followed then, the broken tablets were followed by a new set of tablets, inscribed. The tablets were fashioned by God, inscribed by the hand of Moshe. A new set of tablets that signify the reconciliation between God and the people after the brokenness, that signify a new covenant, a new opportunity, new possibility. And here's what David Grossman says. There is, however, the possibility that a radically different reality will rise up to contend with them, with these questions. Perhaps the recognition that this war cannot be won, and furthermore that we cannot sustain the occupation indefinitely. This recognition will force both sides to accept a two-state solution, which, despite its drawbacks and risks, is still the only feasible one. This is only the time for those states that can exert influence over the two sides to use that influence. This is not the time for petty politics and cynical diplomacy. This is a rare moment when a shock wave like the one we experienced on October 7th has the power to reshape reality. Do the countries with a stake in the conflict not see that Israelis and Palestinians are no longer capable of saving themselves? The coming months will determine the fate of two peoples. We will find out if the conflict that extends back more than a century is ripe for a reasonable, moral, human resolution. How tragic that this will occur if it indeed does. Not from hope and enthusiasm, but from exhaustion and despair. Then again, that is the state of mind that often leads enemies to reconcile. And today it is all we can hope for. And so we shall make do with it. It seems that we had to go through hell itself in order to get to the place from which one can see, on an exceptionally bright day, the distant edge of heaven. This is a magnificent piece that is honest and true and comprehensive, and that can hold all the truths at the same time. all the truths at the same time. The broken tablets, the broken pieces, the brokenness, the shattered hearts, as well as the light that shines through the cracks, and that can see through the cracks, and with that light, the possibility, even if it's remote, the possibility and the hope of something more whole for both peoples. And I hope also for the whole world, because the whole world is caught in this brokenness today. And so may it be that reconciliation and wholeness will come.